and welcome back to the United Stand. Marcus Rashford to PSG. This saga is starting again, but do PSG really want to sign Marcus Rashford? Will Aston Villa move to sign him with their option to buy, or will Marcus Rashford hold out for Barcelona? We have some news straight out the French press regarding PSG going back in for Marcus Rashford. They have been linked to him many times before. Is it time for another saga? Also a little bit of news around Gabrielle, a very exciting youth prospect at Manchester United. One of the most exciting youth prospects in the world, I would say. He's touted to be one of the next top players of the next generation. But could Manchester United lose him? And how is that going to affect our youth setup? We really need to be keeping hold of players like this. And a little bit on Cunha as well that I'll bring into the show. But get your comments in, get interactive. I'm here for the 2 p.m. It is our show together, and I can't wait to get your comments in because I've got a little bit to say on Marcus Rashford. A lot of people wondering, is he going to be back at Manchester United? I think that's the absolute last thing that would happen. A lot of people wondering if Aston Villa will go and buy him for that 40 million option. I mean, there's two things there. Do Aston Villa want to move for that? I think a lot of people are assuming that they are going to want to, but will they actually? I've got my opinions on that. And is Marcus Rashford going to want to stay there? I mean, from what we know, he's still living in Manchester and travelling down to Birmingham to go and play for Villa. So that doesn't scream of a player that maybe wants a permanent move there. Is he going to hold out for a Barcelona, for a PSG? Get your comments in down below what you think is going to happen here. But I think the good news is that there's a transfer buzz around him, that there's talk about his transfer happening. And I think he will leave Manchester United, and we need him to leave. That money, that 40 million, around that price, if we get it for him, that will cover the likes of Cunha, who's got a 62.5 million release clause. Selling an academy graduate who it's pure profit, one of them roles, them number 10 roles that Ruben Amorim really wants to go and bring in a top player for, that is massive for us who's up against it with PSR. So we need him to leave. Where he goes could determine how much money we get and also how long we'll have to wait to sell him. Because if he goes to an Aston Villa, end of the season, you know, they trigger that option and you get that money in pretty quickly from Villa. It's a quick sale. You know it's there. You can go and reinvest that in the transfer window. Marcus Rashford hangs around for a Barcelona or a different club. You could be waiting until the last days of the transfer window before you get the money in for him, which makes it a lot harder to spend, not knowing if that money's definitely coming. So it's one that Manchester United are going to have to navigate. But the news coming in right now is contact between Marcus Rashford's entourage and PSG's sporting advisor Luis Campos has been renewed. It is unclear whether Aston Villa will opt to sign Marcus Rashford permanently, while PSG is set to be in the market for a forward. And that is coming from L'Equipe in France. Good outlet in France. I know that PSG will be in the market for a forward, but I don't see why they'd be going back in for Marcus Rashford, and I'll explain. Obviously, this is a news show. We'll report on the news. And get your comments in as well. I'll come to that in a second. First of all, they've gone down a different approach in their rebuild under Luis Enrique, where they're not going signing big, flashy names. Marcus Rashford still is a big, flashy name on a lot of money. Second of all, I was told a long time ago now, so it might have changed. And, you know, when you go into press conferences with journalists and, you know, you get talking to people, sometimes you get told stuff off record that, I mean, you've got to choose whether you believe it or not. But what I've been told by multiple different people is that PSG were a little bit frustrated with Marcus Rashford in his camp because they felt like they were used in order to get Marcus Rashford a big new contract at Manchester United. Remember when there was talks of his brother going over to France to speak to PSG, and then he signed a big bumper deal with Manchester United for around, what was it, 350 grand a week? They felt like they were used and that relationship was tarnished with Marcus Rashford in his camp. That might have changed, but also, I look at their forward options for the type of forward that Marcus Rashford is. I can understand that they're going to be in the market for a striker. We know they're going to be in the market for a striker. Moani's gone to Juventus. Gonzalo Ramos, will see how he develops there at PSG. But I look at their winger options, and you're looking at Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, who they've just gone for, Dewey, who's doing absolutely fantastic, Ousmane Dembele, that has been lighting it up for them, and they are big favourites for the Champions League. They're playing very well in the Champions League. They're killing it in Ligue 1. Luis Enrique is a fantastic manager, but their winger options are absolutely flying, and they've got some really good options coming up through the academy as well. So I actually don't think that they would go for Marcus Rashford. What I think this is drumming up transfer interest in Marcus Rashford, because I don't think that Villa are going to sign him on a permanent deal. And whether that's because Marcus Rashford doesn't want to stay at Villa on a permanent deal, obviously that's, might be the case. I'm not saying it is, but it might be. Or is it the fact that Villa aren't going to opt to sign him? It's just been a really good loan for them, a boost for them in the Champions League, in the FA Cup, but they don't really want to take him on full time. So I think this is drumming up transfer interest in Marcus Rashford, because if Villa don't move for him, where are his other options? Are Barca going to go back for him? There's always been that link, but they never really fully moved for him when he was on the transfer market in January. Apparently, according to Ben Jacobs, there was discussions with Marcus Rashford the previous November with Barcelona, but nothing ever really came from it because of Barcelona's financial difficulties. PSG have always been interested in Marcus Rashford, but nothing's really developed in it. I think this is drumming up transfer interest in Marcus Rashford, and I'm going to be honest, I will be surprised if Marcus Rashford signs for Aston Villa on a permanent move in the summer. And everyone I speak to keeps saying, oh, he's going to sign for Villa, he's going to sign for Villa. I think that's very just, you jump into conclusions with that one. I think it's a smart loan move for Villa. Whether it's going to be a smart permanent move for them, I don't think it really would be, but let's see. Don't get me wrong, I want them to sign him, because I think Marcus Rashford is actually doing pretty well there. It's a good boost for him to get back into the England squad, as we've already seen under Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel loves him, but mainly Manchester United immediately get money in the bank to go into the transfer window and go and get Acuna for the 62.5 million release clause, which is what we want. So that's the best option for United if a Villa does go for him, because you get the money pretty quickly because it's a deal that's worked into that loan contract. But get your comments in straight away and get voting on the poll. Where will Marcus Rashford play next season? Stephen Joe says, we are not giving Rashford 200k plus. You'll have to pay at least 33% of his wages if we buy him up the Villa. Well, yeah, exactly. Because if Marcus Rashford does sign for Villa, there's absolutely no way that he's going to become their highest paid player. It'd break their wage structure, and it's just not going to happen. So we wouldn't have to pay his wages. We'd have to knock some off the transfer fee to basically make up for the missing wages of Marcus Rashford. Nomad Joe says PSG can afford Rashford wages. Yeah, they could, but I don't think they will want him and go for him based off the players that they've got. They've got fantastic wingers already. Like I said, I think this is just pushing transfer interest in Marcus Rashford. I'll explain why I don't think Villa will sign Rashford. First of all, the wage structure. He's going to still need quite a significant wage, and I don't think he's going to walk in there and be one of the highest paid players just based off the players they've got. I think it would break the wage structure and would disrupt a few things there. I think they've just played a really smart move in getting a loan through for Marcus Rashford to boost them until the end of the season, because he's played Champions League games, he's done well. In the FA Cup, he's done well. That's where he's got his goal for them. Granted, I know a lot of people are knocking it, saying it's against Preston. That's his level. But he still did well in that game to push Villa through to the next round. He's linked up with Asensio pretty well. But that's where I'm looking at it. If you're Villa and you're only going to buy one, who do you go and buy? Asensio or Rashford? Asensio, for me, is a different level. Asensio's done really well. Rashford's done well, but Asensio's done really well. So I'd be looking to go and sign Asensio if I was Villa. Marcus Rashford, it's a good boost for you in the Champions League. It gives you that depth and it's worked for them. But it could just be a really good loan. If you take him on permanently, you're taking on the wage. Also, does Marcus Rashford have a track record of being consistent? No. I think he's playing good now, and he's not playing absolutely off the scale, by the way. He's playing good. Because, one, you've got an international tournament coming up and he wants to get in the England squad. We've seen this before. And two, he's got something to prove on this loan move. He's playing for his future. He's playing for a move to a different club. He's playing for the Villa move. He's playing to get interest in him, to get clubs interested in signing him and playing for his future. If they sign him permanently, are you going to get that Marcus Rashford continuously for the contract that you're going to give him? I don't think they will, just based off his track record. And I think Emery and I think Villa are quite smart and they know this. This is a good low move for them because you've got a hungry Marcus Rashford that's trying to prove himself to get into this England squad, to prove to other clubs and to them why they should sign him, to prove Amorim wrong. And you've got someone who's going to, give that and fight for themselves, for your club, until the end of the season when you're looking to boost your attacking options in multiple cup competitions. Whether you're going to need that into the summer and into next season, I'm not sure. I think there's other areas that Villa could go down that would be a smarter choice financially for them and would probably give them more in the future on a consistent basis. So I actually don't think Villa will sign Rashford. I don't think PSG will sign Rashford. And then I'm looking and I'm like, where are the options? Because the last thing that I want to happen is I don't want Manchester United to be relying on the Jadon Sancho money and the Marcus Rashford money come the end of the season to go and buy Acuna, who I was watching Terry's show last night in the United Stand. By the way, Terry's doing really well. A good addition to the channel. I was watching his show and we were talking about Cunha and a lot of the comments were getting really excited about Cunha. I've been excited about Cunha for a long time and I've known that there is interest from United and there's definitely interest on Cunha's side to join Manchester United. But the last thing you want is Man United wanting to go and do that deal, £62.5 million. Yes, it's a lot of money, but you've got someone Premier League proven who is top quality, honestly top quality, and he's going to instantly come in and improve this side and be in the starting 11, and he's a versatile player for Amorim's system. The last thing you want is, wanting to go and make that move for Cunha, but the money you thought was coming in, the 25 million from Sancho and the 40 million from Rashford, suddenly, you've not got that, and you're waiting on different parts to move so you can then go and get Cunha because we know we're up against it financially. And while you're waiting on selling a Sancho because Chelsea send him back and pay the 5 million, and now you've got to try and get Dortmund in the race again to sign him, and you're kind of waiting around to do that. Villa don't trigger that option to buy Rashford for 40 million, and then Rashford's kind of hanging around for Barcelona or, taking his time for a move, which he has every right to do, by the way. You're in a situation where you thought you were getting 40 million pure profit for Rashford. You thought you were getting that 25 million for Sancho, and you've actually not sold either of them, so you can't move to Cunha. And next thing you know, Chelsea's come in and just gone, Cunha, here's a 6, 7, 8-year contract. Here's a 62.5 million. You're coming to us, and that's our transfer target gone. And it kind of puts a spanner in the works for Manchester United's plans moving into the summer, the pre-season, and our top targets. Because all these things, as Romano would say, it is a domino effect. So that's the thing that I worry about, to be honest with you. The O'Brien says, it happens every season. We do rubbish at first and then slowly move over time and get into the top 10 teams in the Prem. You talking about this season because United still aren't in the top 10 teams in the Prem. Simon Heron says, I'll get excited about Cunha when he's wearing the United shirt sitting next to Wilcox and Barada. And we have Wayne saying Cunha is not better than Rashford or Sancho. The players have just not kick-started in terms of form. Wayne, I wish I had your optimism because Cunha is absolutely better than both Rashford and Sancho right now. There's no doubt about it for me. Let me see what the poll is actually saying. Where will Manchester United play next season? I'm going to vote somewhere else. So you've got 11% of you saying Manchester United. You've got 21% of you saying Aston Villa. You've got 41% of you saying PSG and 27% saying somewhere else. So the majority of you think he is going to PSG. What I would say on that is the outlet's pretty good in L'Equipe, but I just don't see how he displaces the wingers they've got. They've just gone and spent on Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. That's the position that Marcus Rashford plays. I don't see where he fits. Dembele is killing it. Barcola's great. Like, they've got other players. I don't see why they'd go and spend on Rashford, especially if the relationship is fractured. I hope they do, because they could afford his wage and they could afford to to come and buy him off us. But I just don't see that being their priority. I think they'll prioritise a striker, to be honest with you, PSG. But anyway, let's move on from the Rashford story. That's where we're at with that. We could be in for another transfer saga. And I'm just warning you now, I really just hope it doesn't affect the race for us to go and sign Cunha, because Cunha would be the top target. There's other options. There's Trincao that I know a lot of people are talking about, and I heard Terry talking about it last night, and I've seen a couple of people mention him in the comments. And there's other number 10s out there that have been linked to. Ryan Cherky from Lyon, who we're about to play this week. By the way, I can't wait for that Lyon game. Who else have we been linked to? We've been linked to Semenyo from Bournemouth, haven't we? I don't think that will happen. We've been linked to multiple players in that number 10 role. So Cunha isn't the only option, but if he's the top option, and I think it's a lot of people's top option, I just really hope that them Sancho and Rashford deals don't screw us over in terms of going to get him, because Manchester United are really short on money and they will be relying on them sales to go and spend in that position, because they take up the position in the squad that Cunha would. They will both be classed as the inside forward number 10s, which is what Cunha would be classed as. So we'll be waiting for them to depart before we can go and trigger his release clause. And you just know someone like Chelsea could just go and sweep him off us, just like they did with Kenda, which I don't want to happen. You know, we could be in a situation where we sell Garnacho before we sell them players, which would be a disaster, but I don't think Chelsea actually will buy Sancho. I was going to say surely Chelsea will buy Sancho, but they probably won't. I think they will send him back for 5 mil. I think there will be interest in Rashford and he will go. It's just how long it'll take to sell him. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, let's move on to the next portion of the show. And the next portion of the show, I want to talk about JJ Gabrielle from the youth setup. So, remember JJ Gabrielle from when he posed with Ronaldo's eldest son in the Old Trafford press conference room in February 2022 when they signed a scholarship with the Manchester United Academy. JJ Gabrielle is a 14-year-old academy player at Manchester United who is touted to be one of the next best players in the world of his generation. And there's so much hype around him. There's so many people talking about him. I think he's just recently signed a deal with Nike, and they basically, you know, have kind of put this huge campaign together to go and get him as like the next star. Did they say he was like the next Ronaldo or something like that? I'm not saying he plays like Ronaldo, but that kind of talent. And I don't want to, you know, big him up too much because he is only 14 years of age. But there's a lot of clubs sniffing around him. And we know how exciting Manchester United's academy is at the moment. But you really want to keep hold of one of the best prospects in that academy, in JJ Gabrielle. So there's a little bit of news coming out around this. And the news is, understand JJ Gabrielle's dad has been touting JJ to numerous clubs across Europe in recent months. United are doing everything in their power to get him to stay, with interest in Spain being strong. Barcelona are one of the many clubs that hold a strong interest in him. And then you've got from the Mail Sport here. The Mail Sport understands that several of United's Premier League rivals are desperate to get Gabrielle, while the fact he holds an Irish passport allowing him to play in the European Union from the age of 16, when otherwise he would have to wait until he is 18, opens up an avenue which is encouraging the likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. And this essentially means that JJ Gabrielle, having an Irish passport, he can join clubs across Europe at 16 rather than 18, which allows clubs to make a move earlier. So Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, all circling JJ Gabrielle, with a host of other Premier League clubs wanting him as well. And it's unsurprising because of the talent that he's got. Manchester United apparently are doing everything in their power to keep hold of him. But it would be a real shame and an upset for Manchester United's academy, even though obviously, like, I can't speak highly enough of the academy. Nick Cox has done a fantastic job, and all of the other, you know, people that put so much time and effort into the academy behind the scenes to make it what it is. And it is one of the best academies, and it is thriving right now. You know, our under-18s are doing fantastically well, but it would be a real shame if we lose one of the best prospects we've had in a very long time and probably the best prospect currently at the club. Barca have an incredible academy. You know, there's other clubs that can offer a lot to JJ Gabrielle. I just really do worry that we are going to lose him. I mean, he's 14 and he got called up to the under-18s the other day and he scored 2 goals. The youth team beat Leeds United 13-1 at Carrington on Sunday afternoon, and Gabrielle came off the bench and scored 2 goals in 3 minutes at 14 years of age in the under-18s. And despite him being 14, he's probably one of the most exciting players that we have in the academy. A lot of people are saying he's a once-in-a-generation talent and United could easily fast-track him. This time in 2 years, he could be set to be in the first-team picture when he's 16/17 years old. That's how good he is. With that being said, and with how good the academy's doing, I just want to make it incredibly clear, it is up to the team we have behind the scenes to do everything they can to keep him. And look, if he decides to leave, he decides to leave. You can't force him against his will to stay at the club. But we should be creating an environment where we can keep hold of players like this. Yes, Barcelona have a fantastic academy. Yes, other clubs across Europe have fantastic academies. But at United right now, if you're JJ Gabrielle, it is probably the best route to a first-team place. Because look at the opportunities that you're getting given at this club right now, because our first team isn't really up to scratch, to be honest with you. But Amorim trusts youth. Amorim invests into youth. The club has always, you know, prioritised the academy, and that's one thing that we pride ourselves on. And he will get an opportunity if he stays at Manchester United. He will. Look at Cheeto. He moved from Arsenal for that exact point, and he's already had minutes under Ruben Amorim. Look at Aidan Heaven. I don't think he expected to get the minutes he did so quickly. OK, yeah, it's due to injuries, and yeah, OK, our squad maybe hasn't got the depth as that we'd like, but it's the best route to first-team football. However, you know, a player of that talent might be looking at clubs elsewhere thinking that might be a better opportunity for me because the club is at a higher level. I don't know. But United really should be keeping hold of this player, and it's a big test for Manchester United whether they can keep hold of a player like this, and he is super, super exciting. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Solid Blake says, another player for the future. We need players for now. I mean, he's 14. I mean, yeah, I know we need players for now. I'm not saying he's going to be the answer, but what I'm saying is, you know, if you had, for example, someone like Yamal in your academy at 14, you don't want to lose him, do you? Like, you want to keep hold of him. Like, that's where I'm at with... That's how big JJ Gabrielle could be. That's how much people are building him up. Like, you really want to keep hold of him for the future. We've got Zeb Jarrett saying, get rid of Sancho, Anthony and Rashford and bring in Cunha and Cherki. That would strengthen the attack. If only that it was that easy. I mean, I put a tweet out earlier saying, what would your ideal starting 11 be? Realistic-ish at the start of next season, post-summer transfer window. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, again, this is why I would rather spend a little bit more and make sure the players are right than spend on multiple positions and not have enough first-team quality. I was thinking a new keeper. I do want a new keeper. I don't think Onana's good enough. I was thinking like a back three still of Mazraoui on the right, De Ligt centrally. You know, you could have Yoro or even Heaven or Martinez when he's back fit on the left. I think we've got decent depth at centre-backs. We could do with one more, but it wouldn't be my priority for the summer. I'd have your back four, as I'd actually have Ahmad right wing back. I'd probably have Bruno and Ugarte and Dorgu left wing back. Could do with a midfielder to replace Casemiro potentially. But again, I don't think it would be top of my list. However, it would be high up there. The main thing for me is improving this attack. Improving the attack. You'd then have, you know, a Cunha and, for example, a Cherki, like someone's put in, another 10. I would have another 10. I'd get 2 10s in. And I'd have an Osimhen. That's where I'd be spending my money. The front three and a goalkeeper. I think, you know, the spine of the team is super important, and you could throw in a midfielder into that. You probably do need a midfielder, actually, because Mainoo's probably going to be more of a 10. So maybe you get 1 10 and you get a deep line midfielder in and a striker, but that's where I'd be looking at it for Manchester United. Wing back, I know we want one, but I think Ahmad is great out wide and can play that position. And you're also going to keep Dallo as a squad option as well. Amrim seems to really like him. Centre back, yeah, you could do with one more for a bit of depth, but we've got good centre backs. Goalkeeper, we need. Striker, we absolutely desperate for. Number 10, definitely. That would probably be my top priority. So that's where I'd be looking of 3 big, bold signings, and then potentially add a midfielder to that as well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. But look, everyone, we are travelling off. We are off to travel to Lyon tomorrow morning to go and watch Manchester United in the Europa League. So I will be on Ryan Cherky watch. I've heard mixed things about Cherky. I've heard his ability is fantastic, and I know people absolutely, you know, think he's top in terms of the way he plays football and his technical ability. But I've heard mixed things about his attitude. He is still only 21, I think, but you could get him at a really good deal. I think there's a little release clause there in his contract that is pretty low. So I'll be watching him for Lyon, but mainly, obviously, this is huge game for Manchester United. The biggest game we've played since Sociedad at home in the last round of the Europa League. This is our competition. This is where my buzz comes for the rest of next season. So can't wait to travel over there. Mordy's going to be there. Ricky's going to be there. We're going to have a grand old time, and we'll be in the press conference for Ruben Amorim tomorrow, and whichever player that'll be. So look forward to that. Thank you everyone for watching. Hit a like on the video if you haven't already. Make sure you keep getting your comments in. People saying the keeper should be Diogo Costa. I've heard that's who Amorim wanted, but I don't think we've got the money to be spending 40, 50 million on a keeper again, and we need to get a cheaper keeper. But there's a lot of cheap keepers out there that would be better than Onana, in my opinion. And I've just seen another comment in before I wrap up saying that Amorim's system is starting to look great. Yeah, there's been a lot of flack of Manchester United being pretty boring in that derby, and we were boring, but the system is improving. And I just was thinking to myself on my drive into the studio today, actually, I was thinking the amount of chances Bruno Fernandes created in a derby. In previous years, we'd barely got a touch in a derby. Like, we'd just be sat on the edge of our own box defending for our lives. Even when we went to Anfield away under Ten Hag and we got that 0-0, we had to do it because the previous result was 7-0, which we don't want to talk about. But we barely got a touch. Like, when we went to Anfield away this season, we went toe-to-toe with Liverpool. They're going to win the league. It was a 2-2. With Man City, we were the better team, created better chances. That never happens. So I'm just thinking, if we actually had, good attacking players that could get on the end of these Bruno Fernandes chances that he's creating, and, a bit more quality, this system is starting to look better. Don't get me wrong, it's baby steps, but that's why the forward players are super important. You had a Cunha, you had an Osimhen, a Cherky, you even Delap isn't my first choice, but he's definitely an upgrade on what we've got. Definitely. That's where United need to be looking. I tell you what, if our first signing this summer is a centre-back, I'll go mad. I'll go absolutely mad. Don't get me wrong. I get centre-backs are crucial to Amorim's system, but forward players need to be our priority, which is why Rashford, we need to get that sale done, whichever means possible. Where will he go? Get your comments in down below. And hopefully, Chelsea buy Sancho as well. But I do think, if I'm making a prediction now, I predict that Chelsea send Sancho back. There'd be more news around him staying if he was going to stay, I think. Ahmad Al-Moani says, I'm kind of optimistic. Hopefully it's not delusion. Yeah, I mean, what's the other alternative? Got to be optimistic, because if not, you're just going to get yourself into a negative headspace, and hopefully, that optimism transpires and we can go and get a good result against Lyon. But I'm nervous. But Lyon previews are going to be coming up. I'll wrap up the show now. I was just going to say last thing, it'd be typical of Chelsea to send Sancho back to us. We don't have the money yet in time to buy Cunha, and they go and buy Cunha instead. Could you imagine that? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But anyway, hit a like on the video if you've not already, guys. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your lovely comments and your interactive comments as well. And I will see you on the next one.